Chapter 47. 19. On my 19th birthday, my brother and my mom came to visit. These were the best times in prison, spending time with your family. Though I would prefer not to get visits because I felt I was being a burden to family members having to fly halfway across the country. I felt as if I was petty to even accept a visit or money from anyone. Using their hard-earned money for plane tickets, hotel rooms, food, and taxi cabs that could be used for more useful things felt selfish on my behalf. A grown man / gangster / real nigga getting a money order from his parents was really embarrassing and weak. The visits nonetheless were 5 to 6 hours in length, and I enjoyed them. Because we were identical twins, we had to sit directly in front of the visiting hall officer, and one of the rotating security cameras were stationed on us. We weren't allowed to get up at the same time to use the restroom or to go to the vending machines. They were paranoid that we may try to switch, as we did in juvenile prison, and was alleged that we did in Lawton. But we were allowed to get up and take pictures, so I was still able to introduce my folks to the Colombian and Peruvian drug lords in the visiting hall. They all liked my energy, especially after I punched a Colombian rat in the face on the compound. I actually didn't know he was a rat at the time, but after that incident, all of the Colombians and Sicilians would shake my hand and thank me. He had made statements on the Ochoa brothers of the Medellin cartel and Carlos later. Pablo Escobar took over the Medellin cartel after Carlos later was arrested, and Carlos later snitched on Escobar. Carlos also later testified against the president of Panama, Manuel Noriega, for a time reduction. Once I found this out, I acted as if that was the reason I attacked them. They told me they couldn't crush him or they would have been prosecuted for retaliating against a government witness, which carried a 20-year sentence, so they were ecstatic that he got his just due. They were only serving 15-year sentences for hundreds of kilos. After that incident, I had the phone numbers and addresses to all the major Colombians on the compound, with them promising to get me whatever I needed when I went home. I also joined the Colombian soccer team as a striker. Every time I scored a goal, they would all lift me up and celebrate like I was Pele. They had a product and needed more outlets but couldn't trust anyone. So watching me and the way I moved, they knew I could be trusted. One of them even hooked me up with his little sister Sofia in Colombia. She was my age and we used to write each other every week. She even took a flight from Colombia to Colorado to visit me once. Along with sports, I enrolled in every class I could take. I got a certificate in accounting, typing, and history. I got my GED and applied for college courses. But within the next 2 years, my brother was arrested with 5 other comrades, including Benny Lee Lawson and Yuck. Cops raided a friend's home after a shootout and found an AR-180 assault rifle with a 4-power telescopic sight, a Tech-9, a Mossberg, a .357 Magnum, a .380, a Taurus 9, and body armor. They lost in trial and were all sentenced to 4 years in prison and sent to Youth Center 1 at Lawton. I was transferred from Colorado after a Compton Crip had a conflict with a biker gang member over a few tabs of acid. One of the biggest ways men psychologically exert power over other men is to make them wait. In prison, we wait for everything. We wait for food, we wait to use the showers, we wait for a visit, and we wait for canteen. We were in the canteen line when they exchanged words and the Crip knocked the biker to the ground with a one-hitter quitter. The biker was around 6'5", extremely pale with a million tattoos all over his raggedy body. He also had 2 devil horns tattooed on both sides of his forehead, swastikas on his arms, thunderbolts on his neck, and white pride down his 2 flabby triceps. Crip dude was 5'9" and solid. In prison, anytime there's an altercation between the races, it can possibly turn into a full-blown war, so everyone immediately went and got their knives. The administration caught wind of the altercation and grabbed everyone they considered an influencer or a shot caller, snatched them off the compound and put them in the hole. I was one of the ones they snatched. The next day, I was transferred. I was held at a county jail in Inglewood for a few days and then flown to a prison in the middle of the desert in Phoenix, Arizona. Luke Air Force Base was 40 minutes away. On my second day on the compound, I was found with a gallon of hooch, that's prison wine, in my cell and a sharpened toothbrush. I was taken to the hole for the next 4 months and was then flown again to Oregon, almost 3,000 miles away from home. Though Oregon is a solid blue Democratic state, the liberals there was just as bad as the Confederates in Alabama, if not worse. The state was founded as a racist utopia. Although they banned slavery in 1844, they also required all African Americans to leave the state. Any African American who stayed would be publicly flogged every 6 months until they left. A law banning all African Americans from entering the state passed in 1849 and in 1859 when they were given statehood. They were the only state admitted in the Union with a constitution that forbade African Americans from entering, working, or owning property there. It was illegal for black people to even live in Oregon until 1926. Once I was taken off of the airlift, I was placed on a 12-seater passenger van with 11 other prisoners. I was the only one of African descent. The van drove through the lush green pastures and wide open plains, heading towards Mount Hood. It was an inactive 11,000-foot snow-capped volcano, 130 miles from the prison, but seemed to be right across the street. As we drove along, I took notice to civilian cars driving past, and they seemed to look into the prison van and stare at me with intrigue. After the third time, I asked the guard that was driving, "Why are all these weird people keep staring into the van?" Well, most of them has probably never seen a black person in real life. Only time they see you all is on TV. They might think you're a Michael Jordan. I immediately knew I was heading into a dangerous territory full of illiterate imbeciles, surrounded by uneducated half-wits, and stuck for months around the dunce. The military department and the U.S. Army National Guard was 40 and 50 minutes away, respectively.